Good afternoon and welcome to Jonesy Chats Wrestling. In just a few seconds, we're going to tell you about last night's Go Home March 19th Smackdown. We're on the road to Fastlane. We'll be talking about the recently rejected Andrade return, also going on about the announced hosts of WrestleMania. Stay tuned. We want to hear your opinion in the comments. We hope you watch Jonesy Chats Wrestling with George and Steve from SCW coming next. It's on its way. Hi, welcome back to Jonesy Chats Wrestling on YouTube. I'm George, and I'm joined by Steve from SCW. We've got a fun show coming up in just a few seconds. We're going to be talking about the talking points of last night's Smackdown show. We're also talking about the recently rejected Andrade storyline, and also going on about the hosts of WrestleMania. How are you this afternoon, Steve? It's great to see you here on the Fastlane show, Go Home show.
Yeah, thanks for having us as always. Always great to be on the show. Doing very well, thank you. And yeah, ready to discuss Smackdown. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Excited for the pay-per-view tomorrow. It's going to be a fun review. Let's kind of get to it. So this was obviously a massive kind of episode of SmackDown. Going to kind of break it down then. So obviously SmackDown. What was your kind of thoughts going into this episode? Were you kind of excited by it?
I had a bit of up and down feeling. I was quite excited about the main event particularly. I mean, obviously Edge first time competing on SmackDown for over a decade. I thought him and Jey Uso would have a really good match, so that was quite investing. I was a bit nervous about the SmackDown Women's Championship match, but we'll be touching on that shortly. I was pleasantly surprised in one or two areas.
That's good to hear. It's always good to hear your opinion, Steve. So we're going to go into this then. So the show obviously opens up. We've got Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair backstage by the gorilla position. They're basically just dueling. It's a bickering match more. It's almost about sort of who can save who, really. I enjoyed this. This is a great tease to what's been going on at the long-time story for WrestleMania. What was your kind of thoughts of this angle?
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it as well for the same reasons that you've given. And I think as well, I mean, the only thing I felt with it was that Bianca Belair and Edge kind of have a similar vibe with the storylines, with how they're kind of not wanting the champions to defend those championships, but they need to be defended on the road to WrestleMania. Nia Jax has beaten both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champions on road here. So she was worthy of the title match. So yeah, I mean, it was a good way to go into the match. And there was that little seed of doubt in place potentially with... with Fastlane coming on as well, coming from the way that resulted of the end of that first match.
Definitely. So we got the SmackDown Women's Championship. This was obviously built last week. It was Sasha Banks with Nia Jax. Interesting note, Reginald's not there this week, which is an interesting note. Wasn't there on Raw. He's there off having a spa. I'm really hoping it's not going to be kind of COVID. I'm really hoping there's not some serious sort of long-term issue with him. I hope he's well. He was really missing this week, which I can't believe I'm saying, actually. What was your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, it was a surprise to not see him there. Like you say, I hope it's for no reasons of any ill will. But if he's written off TV for a week to let actually storylines breathe and let them develop, then that's a good thing. And that has been a positive to not have it so much about the original show. But I like the way it was written off. I did kind of smile at the idea of seeing the cucumbers on the eyes. So yeah, I thought it was all right.
Perfect. I'm going to go to the comments quickly. We've got a comment there. It's WrestleMania UK. Good afternoon, Mex. I hope you're well. Thank you for tuning into the video. Yeah, good to see you here, mate. Yeah, definitely. I hope you enjoyed the review. Going to go carry on with this review then. So obviously we've got this women's championship match. Sasha Banks and Nia Jax. This was an okay match. I think Sasha did a really good job of putting over how dominant Nia is. I think that was really, really interesting. The finish was interesting where sort of Baszler and Jax miscommunicate with each other. Nia ends up getting kicked in the face. And it ends up with obviously Banks getting the win, which is the right decision. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, right. Clearly the right decision. Sasha Banks retained the championship. Her coming down halfway through the match after she said she would help Sasha. It just goes to show that she wants that match with Sasha Banks, not necessarily just to go for the championship. She wants to prove herself against the best there is out there. As well with the finish, I like the thing that makes me put the seed of doubt with Fastlane. I was so clear Jax and Shayna Baszler were retaining, but you saw that kick from Shayna Baszler. There was question marks of whether that was intentional or not. And that played into a storyline. And of course, let's not forget, there has been tag team champions that have been opponents at WrestleMania one time in the past. It was at WrestleMania 23. It was John Cena against HBK. And now it's a two-night WrestleMania. Is there a potential where you could have them defend the belts on night one and then go against each other on night two? So there is that area out there. So despite the fact that I still stand and say Nia Jax and Baszler will retain, a little bit of doubt was seeded. So that kind of makes me think that SmackDown's done a great job on the Go Home show of making it not feel so obvious for me. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, it's a great shout. I think you make an interesting dynamic. I think that'll be a fun match at WrestleMania, but definitely the tease is there. Obviously, the tension backstage after the match where they're falling out, and there's been many signs of this recently. So it's an interesting sort of analysis, and it seems to be the same with a lot of the tag teams, apart from the tag team with Snuka and Natalia. All the other tag teams on SmackDown seem to be falling out, don't they? They all seem to be not be able to trust each other almost.
Yeah, it feels like it with especially the women's division. Of course, the Right Squad getting rid of Billy Kay, and there's been numerous other examples as well. Yeah, so it's interesting to see how it's going to go leading into WrestleMania and what direction we're going to get. Obviously, this Sunday it's going to be a lot clearer, and we can put those missing pieces of the puzzle together to make those remaining matches.
Definitely. We've got our next talking point. It was a promo from Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is there, obviously talking about what he did last week to Cesaro. It ends up with kind of Nakamura coming out. This is literally to build up the match that's going to happen tomorrow night at Fastlane. This was a fun sort of segment. It's great to see these two interact. This is a match that's been thrown together with 1 week's build, but I'm a fan of it. It's a great in-ring match. This is going to be really fun. What was your thoughts on this promo and stuff?
Yeah, it was really good. I'm not sure about the suit. I wonder if that's what Seth wants us to embrace the vision. We don't get blinded by it. I mean, that was a questionable on that one. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, this was the most Nakamura that Nakamura's felt being on SmackDown in however many years since he got there from NXT. It was amazing, the swagger that he had coming to the ring. And of course, just the way he told Seth Rollins to shut up. And obviously, the way Seth sold that kick as well. It was like a bowling pin in the bowling alley. It was fantastic to watch. So yeah, I mean, these two have had wrestled once before. I believe it was Survivor Series 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and had great chemistry. It was one of the matches of the night on that card. I think they could bring that to this Sunday as well. Of course, Seth Rollins this time playing the heel, Nakamura playing the face. I think the roles are in the right place. I think it could be really well executed if it's put together right.
I think it's a great filler feud to keep Rollins busy on the road to WrestleMania. I think it's a clever move. I was happy to see this, if that makes sense. I think it's a great sort of interaction, and it makes sense. It's nice continuity from last week where we had that sort of Nakamura staring at Rollins and it wasn't really explained. I'm glad they followed it up this week. It makes total sense to me now.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, with Cesaro being out, they're still friends. End of the day, once Seth gets gets what we'd expect, that win probably this Sunday, that could actually trigger maybe an attack that may bring Cesaro back, or wanting to get revenge for his friend Shinsuke Nakamura. So this is setting that WrestleMania match really well. And of course, Shinsuke is another one of those arguably wasted potentials, someone else that should be at that point, but not quite getting there. So this fits that storyline really perfectly at this point.
I think they did a good job of Cesaro not being there. I think that wasn't really he wasn't really missed in this sort of segment. So I think it was a good fun segment. Looking forward to see what they do at Fastlane tomorrow night. It's going to be a fun match, that's for sure, isn't it, Steve?
Absolutely. Like I say, it's got a potential to be match of the night for sure.
Perfect. We've got this next match, which is obviously a tag team match, the Street Profits against Rey and Dominic Mysterio. This was a quick match. Not really a lot happened. We got a rare win for Rey and Dominic. That was quite a big win for them. Dominic looked particularly impressive. The Hurricane Rana was quite good in the finish. What was your thoughts of this kind of win? It's a big win, isn't it, for the Mysterios?
It is, and they're really establishing this tag team division. One thing that we'll notice and we'll continue to say after this is that no tag team is establishing pure dominance to be the number one contender. Just when you think one team is there, another team goes and feels like they're taking that spot. Street Profits last week getting the victory over the tag team champions in that 8-man tag team match. This week, the Street Profits lose. Arguably a shock win, but it puts Rey and Dom what feels in a pole position. But of course, that seems to change as the next segment kicks in.
Definitely. We then have a Alpha Academy come out. This ends up being another tag match. We've got Rey and Dominic versus Alpha Academy. This is further building up the tag team division, and Alpha Academy get the win here. So Otis once again kind of gets the win. He's on a big kind of push at the moment. For me, obviously flipping wins, which I kind of get. I felt the momentum and Mysterios was kind of lost in this segment, but I do get why they're doing it. Was you a fan of another tag match with the Mysterios so soon after?
See, at one point when I first saw this, I thought to myself, I'm not sure if this is the right time to do it. We've just had one match. Why do the double duty? There's other people that's, around on the SmackDown roster that could be using the TV time. But once you saw things play out, you thought, how well executed by Chad Gable. He's obviously the mastermind behind this Alpha Academy tag team. They go out there, get the victory over the Mysterios. All of a sudden, they look like they're the team in pole position. There's no team that seems to be the number one. And obviously, Ziggler and Rude were actually, I thought, were very good in commentary. They were actually at ringside, obviously giving their analysis. And they weren't really committing to giving a title shot to any tag team. They're like, yeah, we'll definitely take it under consideration. They weren't willing to go that whole way in, which just makes you believe that Sonya Deville, rather than giving the Street Profits what they want, because there's been a bit of friction there in recent weeks, rather than it being a straight up tag team match, I think we're going for the 4-way at WrestleMania. And I think personally, it's the right direction to go. SmackDown has a tag team division after all this time. And yeah, I mean, it's the only 4 teams we've got currently, but this is a very good start. It's looking very promising, I feel, for the SmackDown side.
100% agree. This SmackDown tag division is a lot more exciting than Raw, where we've only got 1 or 2 tag teams. So I think it's a smart move. Just going to go to the comments quickly. I've got another comment here for WrestleMania UK. Looks like we're getting Rollins, Cesaro, Nakamura at Mania, which would be great. 100% agree with you, Max. I think that would be fantastic. Either way is going to be great, but Rollins, Cesaro in some sort of format 100% at WrestleMania, I think it's going to be fun, isn't it? What a match sort of for Rollins to sort of come back for. I think it's a big match. I think it gives Cesaro something to do as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Are you, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the suggestion, by the way, the triple threat match. But one thing's for sure, Seth Rollins is going to be spun around probably the most times you've ever seen the Cesaro swing go. I think that's definitely one call we give for WrestleMania.
Perfect. We then had this next kind of talking point. Sami Zayn's obviously backstage with the documentary crew. He then walks up to Kevin Owens. He then mentions about Logan Paul, about all his tweets and stuff like that. Funny kind of segment. Owens says that he'll have a look and see if Sami's been mistreated, if the conspiracy's real. Quite a fun interaction. It makes me wonder if we're going to get Logan Paul at WrestleMania at the premiere of this film. If it's shown then, I think it could be a fun sort of maybe sort of outcome to this. But great to see that tease of Owens and Zayn so early on the show. What were your thoughts of this segment and the mention of Logan Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was quite fun. I can't wait to see this documentary when it's finished and going to be put out there. The way that Sami's going to put his twist in it, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And the thing that's really the best thing about this is we're building towards Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens now at WrestleMania. All those teasers of where everyone's going to quite fit in was not quite sure. But one thing's for sure, this one has been brewing underneath the surface since Elimination Chamber. Right, so when those, they were talking to one another in the pods before the match even started, to then actually when the match got going, where Sami Zayn was like, they're against us. That was brought again this week on SmackDown. So it's been going on for a while under the surface. And yeah, we've still got time to go between now and WrestleMania. And I really hope they're giving a good build for these two, because if they have that WrestleMania match, they've wrestled everywhere, under every circumstance, every way. But have they had the chance to steal the show at WrestleMania? They haven't. And to have that opportunity, for me, I think will be golden. I personally would love to see it. I don't know if you would agree.
100%. Even with the past feuds they've had, the matches were electric. NXT, everywhere they've been, it's going to be good. Would it be an interesting sort of swerve if it turns out that Kevin Owens is behind all these controversies all along? Would you like to see that? And it's revealed on the camera that he's the one behind Sami's misfortune. Could that be a fun play later down the line? Would you like to kind of see that, Steve?
It's certainly a fun idea. I love the sound of that idea, but it's just the fact that Sami Zayn, I mean, he's being so heelish, and obviously the way that match was presented there later on in the evening, which we'll go on to discuss, Sami Zayn was the one that was consistently in the wrong doing things. And, it goes to show that the conspirator is actually, well, he's the one that he thinks this conspiracy is against him. He's the one that's actually trying to get away with little things here and there. So I don't see it quite panning out that way, but certainly it's definitely a fun twist to a storyline if it was to go down that avenue.
100%. Moving on to our kind of next talking point with this. So we then obviously had a sort of fun promo of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan basically saying about him at WrestleMania. He's on about sort of whether he'll get to WrestleMania. He's on about the main event and stuff. He's saying that he'd be able to tap out Reigns when no one else has. I'm really liking the passion from sort of Daniel Bryan at the moment. I think he's done really, really good work of recent weeks, and I'm really kind of enjoying this. He's becoming sort of one of my favourite go-tos on SmackDown at the moment. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed the segment. I thought it was quite good. I mean, obviously they need to do something just to build up this match a bit further for the Fastlane pay-per-view this Sunday. And I think they achieved what they wanted to with it. I mean, it's probably not advanced the storyline so much, but I wondered at one point if they were actually starting to build towards an I Quit or submission match. The idea, of how it was so much focus on trying to make Reigns tap out at one point. But thankfully it didn't go down that route. And as I was sure that interview continued.
100%. We then got this next match. It's Sami Zayn versus King Corbin. I like the video build to this. It was quite funny. It was it made me laugh, that's for sure. This was a really kind of quick match. It ends up with Sami Zayn obviously losing. After the match, Owens basically said he's not been sort of screwed over. Ends up with Sami Zayn flipping. Massive, massive swerve. Obviously, Sami Zayn taking out Kevin Owens. And as you said, starts up WrestleMania. What a way to start this feud. I was really impressed with that. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, to go back to the build before that match even started, I mean, just the way it was done, like the feud that no one wants to see, the underwhelming feud ever on SmackDown. I thought WWE did comedy. They did it well. That actually made us laugh. It was fantastic. If only they could do that on a weekly basis. But going to the match itself, it did what it needed to do. Sam Fiends clearly wasn't successful. King Corbin was there just to do what he needed to do, and he's picking up momentum. Corbin's picking up victories on the low key on SmackDown. So this was the right result, of course, because Sami Zayn's got that conspiracy. And like you say, the way he did that haluva kick, it kind of felt like you could see it coming, but the way it was done and the way it was executed was done very well. So it's still very pleasing for the eye.
Definitely. I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing how that sort of comes up, that feud. Interested to see sort of how they build up the next level, but definitely great to see Kevin Owens get a match potential at WrestleMania. I'm glad that he's going to be on the card because he hasn't really done much since Elimination Chamber, so it's great to see him kind of back in sort of a physical form going forward. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. We then had probably one of my favourite segments of the night. We had Big E and Apollo Crews face-to-face kind of interviews. It was almost like they were in the studio, drawing out promos. Great passion from Big E. Big E, fantastic. I've not seen this kind of passion from Big E since Big E Lanston. I think this guy was just so good on the mic. Apollo, even with his new accent, really getting behind the character. I'm really looking forward to seeing this match. I think it was really good. Gets heated. It ends up with them sort of flipping. They then go looking for each other. And then we've got the go-kart there from WrestleMania 17, which was a nice cameo, nice looking back of that. And I think it was really fun. I think this was a really good spot. Ends up with Big E getting the momentum on Apollo. Then Apollo flees like a villain, which I think is really good. But great work to all. I'm really impressed by the change of Apollo. Amazing job by WWE to get this character over. I think it's even with the accent, I can still really buy into Apollo. I think he's no longer just a jobber. This guy's obviously got something, and he's going for that belt sort of tomorrow night, which I think is where he belongs. Really, this new gimmick. What's your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one word that I'd use for this rivalry is personal, because that's what it's got. And the way it was executed on SmackDown, it really just elevated that feud, just that level up further. This really felt like something that I was watching back from 97, 98. It was really passionate, like you say. For me, I'm really looking forward to this match. This is one of the matches probably I'm looking forward to most on the card this Sunday. I still have a feeling that Apollo is going to walk away the Intercontinental Champion. I'm interested to see where it's going to lead to next, so close to WrestleMania. I feel that this feud is just getting started, and I think that's a really good sign for us as fans, because I really think they could go a long way. This could end up being one of the feuds of the year. It's really good.
I think it could. I think it's an interesting kind of dynamic. I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of book it. And I think this they've just done a really good job. I think I've only got one small kind of complaint. The fact on Sunday is not going to be some sort of no DQ. I know we've got sort of a no disqualification last man standing match with kind of Sheamus and Drew. But this match for me needs some sort of rule where there's not going to be a ref or no sort of DQ or anything. I know it's in the kind of title, but the way it's built up, most of this stuff has taken place sort of with weapons. So to have it as just one-on-one seems to be a bit tame, but I get it. If it's going to be a match where we get a DQ finish, this could go to WrestleMania, I think, quite easily. And then maybe at WrestleMania, they'll get that sort of weapons element. What's your kind of thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, I think that's where it is. I mean, at this point, you have the one-on-one match, and you've got a chance then to elevate it further. If you take the weapon stipulation in now, for example, a stairs match or whatever you want to do, falls count anywhere, which could be a suggestion with how they were doing on SmackDown, you need that sort of environment to take place at WrestleMania, the story forward. If you do it now, the feud kind of finishes. There's nowhere for it to go. So they've got sort of room here to make this go on for a number of weeks, perhaps even months.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of moving forward then. So we've then obviously got this Bianca Belair, Shayna Baszler match. This next talking point. Wasn't really a match. It was kind of a quick thing. It ends up kind of with a no contest. And all it ends up with is Natalya and Tamina kind of running in. But no, interesting match. The fact that sort of neither Nia or neither Sasha Banks made the save here. So further, this sort of new tag team of Natalya and Tamina, they look really kind of mean. I think they're a good addition to the women's tag team division. What's your thoughts of this segment?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite quick. It was quite random in places. I mean, obviously, Nia Jax clearly not forgiving Shayna for earlier because she was there at ringside but wasn't sort of around when the beatdown was going on. Sasha Banks came out but went back to the back. It kind of feels that almost, even though we've got two teams fighting for these tag team championships, no one's quite much on the same page. Like you said there, there's a lot of friction in the women's tag team division right now. But one team that seems to be on point is Natalya and Tamina. And like you say, the way they're being booked, I'm surprised I'm saying this, but I want them to be the next champions. I really feel like I'm getting involved to these characters. But if that's going to take place and say they were to win those belts at WrestleMania, I wouldn't be surprised, as I say, going back to a point made earlier, if it was against Sasha and Bianca on night one of WrestleMania. I wouldn't be surprised if it went down, because then you can have Nia Jax against Shayna Baszler in a one-on-one match. So there's lots of different ways this twists and turns it can go. At this point, just when you think you had the answers, WWE looks like they might have just changed the questions.
100%. There's a lot of questions coming out of the division, I think. But no, definitely it's fun. We're going to go into this kind of main event. I know you've got a lot to talk about the main event. So obviously this is Edge's first sort of match on SmackDown in 10 years. So this was obviously Edge and Jey Uso. The winner would get the Enforcer's role tomorrow night's pay-per-view, Fastlane. Obviously, this was a very fun match. We had Jey Uso on commentary, very hard hitting. They got a good amount of time. They got 13 minutes. Edge obviously got the windfall. Then, just as it looks like Edge has got the momentum, we get Roman Reigns sort of take him out. And then next thing you know, you get Daniel Bryan in there. Roman challenged Daniel Bryan. Roman looks like he's going to get his comeuppance. Jey Uso takes Daniel Bryan out, and then Roman standing tall. What was your thoughts about this segment? Please tell me what you want to talk about and your thoughts about it.
What a brilliant finish to the show. Just to say very quickly, you mentioned Daniel Bryan there being on commentary for the main event. Just a quick note, by the way, how many matches had people on commentary throughout the whole show here? We mentioned about the tag match and Kevin Owens as well. So it's been quite a recurring theme. But the match itself was fantastic for what potentially could be to come, because I love the psychology that Jey Uso and Edge had. I mean, as a one-on-one match, I thought it was brilliant. It was clearly the match of the night, because all the focus was being put on Edge's, sort of abdominal stomach sort of area, which is perfect for Roman Reigns' spear. We're looking at starting to build to a lazy direction from WWE as a build to that match in WrestleMania, but seeing that focus put on Edge's ribs just made me think that that's something that's going to actually play in storylines further to come. So I think we should keep an eye out that for further actual episodes of SmackDown, perhaps even at Fastlane. With the idea as well, Jey Uso, of course, he was attacked on the shoulder and was worn out there with a great 1-2-3. And like you said there, towards the end of the show there, Edge was taken out by Roman Reigns with a spear. Now, obviously, the commentary did actually make mention that the special enforcer isn't just someone just to actually be at ringside. They can have political, they have influence of how this match is going to go. So one thing's for sure, a ref bump is obvious. Edge is going to be getting involved in this match. Will Jey Uso get involved in this match as well, despite the fact that obviously he's not involved in the enforcer role? There's many twists and turns once again this can go. And I will say quickly before I start, I think Roman Reigns is still walking away as WWE Universal Champion. I don't think that's changing. But what's to say that Edge doesn't cost Roman Reigns this opportunity after being speared on SmackDown? It could lead to Daniel Bryan versus to Edge at WrestleMania. Obviously, Roman Reigns gets his rematch clause, ends up being the triple threat. It would be a big shock if that was to go down. But also, the idea if Jey Uso was involved was to cost Daniel Bryan, or Edge was to accidentally do it. We could get Daniel Bryan versus Jey Uso. Uso needs an opponent at WrestleMania. There's so many different elements and twists and directions it can go. I've got to the point where I just sit and say to myself, WWE have done a really good job here on this Go Home show, because just when I thought everything was so obvious, it doesn't feel as obvious and clear cut. Even if you turn around and say, yeah, I still think the same thing. They've given an idea that if something was to twist and turn, you just turn around and say, well, actually, they've put that part in the storyline and it actually makes logical sense. So I wonder what your thoughts were. Could Edge cost Roman Reigns this match, or is he going to still accidentally cost Daniel Bryan the match?
I think it'll accidentally cost Daniel Bryan the match. I can't see the belt coming off Roman sort of tomorrow night, as much as I think it'll be a talking point. But I definitely think we're going to get this triple threat in WrestleMania. I don't see what else they're going to do with Daniel Bryan if he's not in this main event match potentially. I think it's great job by WWE though to build Daniel Bryan up to make him relevant. Following that sort of loss at Elimination Chamber to Roman, you now really care about tomorrow night because you've got this added interaction. Would you be a fan of Edge maybe turning heel? Would you like to see that maybe play out, or is 2 heels in this match against Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania too much? Does it take away, detract from Roman Reigns at all?
Well, I mean, as you've probably seen with my predictions video this week, I did predict that I think Edge will accidentally cost Daniel Bryan. But I said also in that video, I'd love him to turn heel doing it really and actually meaning to do it, because we haven't got the Edge comeback storyline that I wanted leading to WrestleMania. We've kind of, like you said, Daniel Bryan's been in the mix so much that we almost need a triple threat match for this to make logical sense now at WrestleMania. It doesn't make sense without it. But Edge, I wanted him to have that big comeback story, redemption, having to retire 10 years ago. They did show the clip on SmackDown this week as well, of a couple of other clips as well. But also with Edge, I maybe thought he might want to try and bring back the big gold belt. There was lots of different things Edge, this is where we want it to go, but it's not really panned out that way. Edge has kind of been more or less jealous that Daniel Bryan's been throwing himself in everywhere. But this week he says he wants Daniel Bryan to have a fair opportunity. I'm questioning marking it a little bit. I'm not so sure. I'd love it. I'd love the return.
Definitely. I'm just going to go to the comments. We've got a few comments in there. So I'm going to go to Limits 1, Limits CR21. Good to see you, mate. Can't wait for Fastlane tomorrow night. I think the feeling's mutual from all of us, even though they haven't done a fantastic job of building the pay-per-view up. The matches in ring are going to be great. There's a lot of question marks coming out of this. And the fact we've got a main event where Roman Reigns may lose the belt, we haven't been able to say that for a few months, I'd say. So that's quite good for me. I'm also going to go to another comment we've got here. Always Talk Wrestling. Good to see you, Always Talk Wrestling. Hi, SCW and Jonesy. He's also excited for the show, which is good. Also going to go to Mex. Mex makes a great point here. Daniel Bryan and Edge, night 1. Winner faces Roman, night 2. Really, really like it. Great suggestion. It's a bit like that WrestleMania where we had Lex Luger and Bret Hart with a coin toss, and Bret Hart had to face Owen Hart to get Yokozuna. It's very similar to that, I think, in that respect. But yeah, I think I'm a fan of what you said, Mex. I think it'll be really, really kind of good. If we're going to go to kind of a final score and thoughts of this SmackDown, kind of out of 10, what is your final thoughts and score, Steve?
I'm going higher. I mean, the thing is, SmackDown in recent weeks has been a bit underwhelming, especially for SmackDown standards. At the end of last year, SmackDown was a really good show. It was almost consistent, like 8 or 9 out of 10 every single week. This show went back towards that. And as a go-home show, for where I thought a lot of things, like I said, were so obvious. Yeah, I still think the same results, but I don't think they're so clear-cut. And like you said, Roman Reigns, for the first time, I sit there and go, there is just that little bit of doubt. Maybe he could lose that championship, even though I don't think so. So I'm going to go for a solid 8 out of 10. I think this SmackDown was very good.
Yeah, I'm going to join you. I don't want to be a parrot. 8 out of 10 as well. I think they did a good job. They've created a load of interest going into the pay-per-view, and I think it was a great go-home show. It really connected on a lot of levels. I think the promos and stories we've got from Edge and Daniel Bryan, you really care about these wrestlers now. You really want to see them beat Roman because Roman's such a good heel. But no, I'm definitely excited. Are you excited for the pay-per-view, Steve, before we go into the kind of the final news stories?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I saw the joke in the week, all the mid-carders can point to the Fastlane sign rather than the WrestleMania one. But I kind of feel that actually they've actually made this show, even though last minute means something. I had a big dig about Fastlane a week ago on my channel, but actually this week, going into it one day before, like you say, there's potential twists and turns. It could be a good show here. I think we've got some really good matches on the card. Braun and Shane, we don't know if that's going ahead now. It's been and ahd. So yeah, we could have got rid of some of the stuff we don't want to see. We've put in 1 or 2 matches we do want to see. I think it's looking quite positive tomorrow night.
Definitely. I'm going to go to kind of just the comments quickly before we go on to just the last 2 bits of news we've got. So we're going to go to this one, the Limitless CR21. Walter should defend the UK title at WrestleMania kickoff show. That would be cool. I agree with that 100%. I think Walter, now he's in NXT, I think he's going to drop the belt to Rampage Brown. I don't know whether they'll transition him with the belt. Now he's in America. I don't know whether literally he can get back to United Kingdom. So I think they're going to have to make him drop the belt. Would you agree with that, Steve, logically?
It could happen. I still Walter will keep the championship. I think he's actually on course to face Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver.
Yeah, that's on 100%. Tommaso Ciampa, Walter. That'll be a great match. That'll be hard hitting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be awesome. Let's be fair.
Definitely. Just going to go to Always Talk Wrestling. This is a great point. I want Lashley versus Drew night 1. Sheamus costs Drew and injures him. We'll then get Sheamus versus Lashley. That would be really, really fun. Would you be a fan of that, Steve?
I would be. My only dig on it is that the idea of having so many matches where they consist of night 1 to night 2, if that happens quite consistently, we'll get a point where half of the roster aren't on WrestleMania again in a few years' time, where everything will matter on night 1 to what leads to a card on night 2. So I don't want that to be the future direction on every storyline and every angle. But as an idea of how to make Sheamus relevant for WrestleMania, because Sheamus is having one of the best runs of his career right now. Let's not kid ourselves. Sheamus has been amazing. And this would really work well to make Sheamus get that payoff, because to get a big WrestleMania match against Lashley like that would be awesome. So as an idea from Always Talk Wrestling, I really like it. It's just something I don't want to be a constant thing if they're going to do 2-night WrestleManias every year.
Definitely. So moving forward, obviously the news this week broke. Andrade, obviously he did ask for his release. WWE didn't grant it, but big news on Andrade. Andrade obviously asked for a release. He's trademarked the name The Sombra. That's what he wants to use, apparently. Ever since Thea Trinidad went, aka Zelina Vega, he's not been able to get booked. An interesting note, Charlotte actually ran an angle through WWE to try and get them together on TV, and this was vetoed. What's your kind of thoughts on this? Even Charlotte can't get Andrade on TV. It's a real sort of shame, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, they clearly don't have any plans or direction for him. It's come out this week as well. Andrade's actually made it clear that the rumors were true. He did actually try to get his release. There's now rumors going around as of like the last 24 hours or so that Charlotte now may not even be part of WrestleMania. She's not on any of the posters going forward. She's apparently been hired. Yeah, well, she's actually been hired as well, accepted for the Walking Tall.
She's on a film, isn't she? She's on a film or a show, 100%.
Yeah, wow, so that remake's going to go down, and don't know when the filming's going to be, but that might cancel all of the plans they had for Charlotte if she was to win the belt at WrestleMania. So Rhea Ripley's debuting on Raw this week. It's confirmed as of last night. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rhea Ripley goes straight in to go against Asuka at WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. I think that would be a fantastic encounter if that was to go down. But as for the Andrade stuff, Yeah, the guy can't catch a break, but obviously he's trademarked his name that he had previously when he was in Ring of Honor, New Japan, and Mexico, where he'd been all around everywhere else previously. I know he's part of LIJ before WWE.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be great to see if he does get the opportunity to go out and explore his horizons. But it looks like he's going to have to be patient for the meantime.
Wow. Okay. Big news there. I was going to say. So moving forward to our last story of today's review and podcast and video. Thank you all for watching so far. Obviously, we had the shocking news yesterday. Titus O'Neil and Hulk Hogan going to host in WrestleMania. This is Hulk Hogan's first host since it's WrestleMania 30. Last seen in January at Legends Night. For me, when I got this announcement, I was a bit disappointed, underwhelming. I was underwhelmed last year where we had Gronk and Mojo. We've not seen Mojo since. For me, Titus O'Neil could have done this host on his own. I'm going to raise it out there. I want to give this a shout out to Non-Stop Wrestling Chat. Barry as well. He came out with a great shout in his video today. This is the best idea I've heard, so I'm going to say it. He reckons that Billy Kay should be hosting, and I agree. Billy Kay would be a far better host than Hulk Hogan and Titus O'Neil. I'm sorry. What was your thoughts of this announcement, Steve?
I want to give some praise to Non-Stop Wrestling Chat because I haven't seen that video yet, but actually I gave the same suggestion in my video that's gone up just now. I've released a video this afternoon. I've got the same suggestion in there because Billy Kay with the resume, I think is fantastic comedic value. Billy Kay is actually funny in WWE, and you can have that light relief between matches. That would work really, really well. So yeah, I was very underwhelmed by it as well. I think it's a little bit political, let's be fair, but let's not touch too much on that. I just don't think Hogan can offer much either at this stage. I mean, what happened on Legends Night? The H phone. I mean, come on.
Like, I know he lifted the ratings slightly. Apparently, he lifted the ratings, but let's look at this logically. So he's in Tampa, lives in Tampa, so it's an easy deal. They want to pay him the money for the Legends deal, but for me, what is the point of a host? I just think it's so underwhelming, and I think that Titus O'Neil, I get it. Titus O'Neil's a good humanitarian. I get that part of it. I do understand it, but it just didn't really connect for me. It just further. If I was going out to WrestleMania, I know it's a spectacle you pan out for the show, but to see them two. It's just one of them. I'm going to go to the comments quickly. WrestleMania UK, your comment's great, so I'm going to get it up. Billy Kay or Bailey is doing what? Mania? Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah, that would be
either one of them two would have been good.
I mean, hello, ding dong. Do you know what I mean? You've got your answer right in front of you. Use your roster. You have talent on that roster. Great characters. Just pointing out there perfectly. Bailey would be a fantastic shout. Why not do it? Like you could have. Imagine like a WrestleMania door that she comes out of. It would have been awesome to kick off the show. There would be a waste in it.
We've got somebody that actually wants to see Titus, so I'm going to go to the comment. Always talk wrestling. It's actually excited to see Titus as host. Fair point. If he's doing that stuff like sliding, like he did at that Saudi match, then that's fine. But I think they've got to be better than Gronk and Mojo from last year. That's for sure. They've got to be much more longevity. Hulk Hogan obviously has got a great history in the business. I get that, but I'm interested to see what they do. I don't know how this is going to affect the show itself. I don't know what sort of angles they are. I can only presume they've got Titus O'Neil there to do some sort of spot because Hogan probably won't be doing any sort of moveset, I believe. Have you got anything else you want to add, Steve, before we kind of end the show today?
I'll turn around and say that, I mean, Titus O'Neil, he's a great ambassador for WWE, and obviously he has got great personality, so I'm sure that he will carry this to make it respectable. But obviously, overall, I think a lot of people have come back with this news fairly negative, and we'll just have to see how it's all going to play out. But I think all in all, with most things going on as we're going towards WrestleMania, we're starting to build a card together now. We're starting to get matches together. A few more matches are being teased as well that I think we're going to like the look of. I think WrestleMania overall is looking pretty healthy at the moment in compared to what it was looking a week or two ago. So I'm going to remain optimistic rather than pessimistic when it comes to WrestleMania 37 at this stage.
I agree. It'd be great to have fans back, that's for sure. Just before we end the video today, Steve, please tell everyone about your great channel for people who don't know. Just tell them what you've got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for letting me plug it. As always, SCW, the wrestling channel on YouTube. There's a video that's dropped about an hour or so just before we did this video, which was touching on a lot of my Fastlane thoughts and the WrestleMania matches I'd like to see. Also touching on the WrestleMania host, so maybe you can skip a chapter on that one if you've seen it here already. But yeah, of course, the Q&A will be dropping tomorrow as well, and Fastlane review will be dropping on Monday at some point, perhaps maybe afternoon, early evening. So yeah, keep an eye on the channel. I always try to give regular content as often as I can. But George, thank you as always for letting me plug the channel. I really appreciate it. And I want everyone to actually subscribe to your channel, man, because you have some great content. Loving your work that you're throwing out each and every week. It's so consistent and so good. So everyone, please subscribe to Jonesy Chats Wrestling.
That's very kind of you to say. Thank you very much. In terms of me and content from me, later today, I'll be on the After Rated Wrestling channel alongside Wrestlemania UK in the comments with none other than After Rated Wrestling. We're going to be covering Fastlane predictions, last final thoughts. That should be fun. On Monday, probably 9 a.m., we're going to have a live stream of this pay-per-view Fastlane with our thoughts. Me and the other Steve will be back, and I'm sure me and Steve will be back on Tuesday to cover Raw as always. But no, this has been Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Thank you very much for the comments and engagement. Yeah, really appreciate you coming out and checking the video. I hope you enjoy the pay-per-view tomorrow, and if you aren't already, please sub, as Steve said, and if you've enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up. But yes, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
See ya.